In the finals, we all have our favorites. Favorite song, favorite map, favorite class, favorite gadget. But what about our worst choice? With Season 7 finally here, we now have a total of 35 different gadgets to choose from. From infiltration, area denial, team healing, or even direct counters to level the playing field. All of the finals gadgets have something to offer that fits your direct build and playstyle. But after playing through all 7 seasons and racking up over 400 hours, I've always wanted to know, what is the worst gadget in the finals? Now I know that question is subjective. I mean, this game is all about swapping, building, and countering loadouts after all. But what I mean by it is, what, out of all the gadgets the finals has to offer, is objectively the worst? And in order to find that answer, I did what any person in their 20s with an almost degree would do. I asked my dad. Hey Dad.
Yeah.
What's the worst gadget in the finals?
What?
When that didn't work, I decided to ask the same question in the finals Reddit. Now the community gave me a wide range of different answers, from flashes, tracking darts, smokes, and even the newly announced Nullifier. Safe to say opinions are divided. So screw it, if the community is just as split as I am, I'm just gonna have to find the answer myself. Just kidding. The plan is, out of all 35 gadgets, we're going to rank the community's collective top 10 worst, judging their overall faults and reliability in combat, all in order to find the true worst of the worst. So kicking us off in 10th place, we have the Data Reshaper. Yeah, I don't know why it's considered on this list either. I mean, it's a 2 ammo defense clear that sweeps away everything you know and love to keep the cash out clear in an instant. Turrets? Gone. Mines? Gone. Barricades? Gone. Your self-respect? I mean, it's still there, but that's next. And with its 21 meter range, it takes a true moron to say this gadget isn't one of the medium's best. But apparently ChatGPT hasn't played much of the game since it says so. So I guess it's just as blind as our number 9 spot, the smoke grenade. You see what I did there? Yeah? Yeah. Smokes provide an adequate cover for cash-out stealing, as well as snuffing out fires from pyro mines and making gas virtually invisible. Not to mention that it has 3 deployables covering a maximum area of close to 30 meters. However, smokes do pose a big downside, in that it can be ill-advised to run around specific team builds. Like if you use it near a turret, or if your team is running anything pyro. This is because it practically stops your team dead in their tracks and practically disables your team in one click. Oh yeah, not to mention the fact you can't fucking see inside it! But overall, I personally use smokes in my builds and haven't seen much in the way of negatives during my matches. However, I will say you should handle them at your own risk. Because if you mess up a light's push or a heavy's pyro defense, you will probably need therapy after the inevitable verbal harassment you'll receive. But sticking to gadgets that hinder your team and don't let you see, we have our number 8 spot, the Flashbangs. A 2 ammo thrown projectile that works the same as any other flashbang in every other FPS game out there. Blinding, disorienting, scaring, and generally outplaying your opponents. At least, that's how it should work. However, in the finals, flashbangs have one pretty substantial fault. They seem to blind you and your team more often than save them. All because your teammates throw worse than the 1899 Cleveland Spiders. However, it's not their fault. It's mainly because of the game's avoidance range for flashes. How avoidance range works is almost like a coin flip. Working with your line of sight, it acts as an area of effect as long as you are looking right at it. However, if you manage to break that line of sight, you have a chance of being unaffected by its blinding effect. But if you can't defend, or are slightly off in any way, you become Ray Charles for 4.5 seconds. But speaking of defense, that moves us on to our next spot at number 7, the barricades. Now, the barricade has a strong defense, with 2 strong walls to crouch behind and a steady health pool to rely on. Along with its 30-second cooldown rate, it can create more than 2 standard barricades at any time, leading to it to defend a wider area for longer. However, where I see problems is that it doesn't have the move-up push that the Dome Shield or Goo Grenade carry, practically creating a dead stop defense in any open areas like Monaco or Kyoto. Not to mention the fact that its only real use I've had a chance to utilize is the ability to block off room doors and windows to defend cash outs from approaching opponents. But I'd rather choose Goo Grenade overall because you can cover a wider area and still get the same defensive power. Which is why I leave it more toward the bottom side of the list, because its faults are heavy, but not strong enough to track further than our next gadget at number 6, the Tracking Dart. A 4 ammo count long range hit scan gadget that shoots a projectile that tracks an opponent for 13 seconds. With a net positive of a 12-second cooldown and a pretty solid tracking outline, the Tracking Dart does have a pretty solid foundation. But personally, I believe the Tracking Dart is honestly not that great a gadget. And I'm not the only one. Most people agree the best tracking based gadgets fall heavily toward the sonar grenade and the proximity sensor. This is because its use in high-stress, close-quarters engagements make for an overall better outcome. Because despite its long-range capabilities, the Tracking Dart still has one major flaw that holds it back. Aiming. And I don't know if you're like me and can't hit the broadside of a barn, but this has got to be the worst part of the gadget. You have to scope in and somehow manage to hit them in order to track them. Now compare that to the other 2 gadgets where it's as simple as throw, track, done. I hate to say it, I just think that its main role in gameplay just blows up in your face if you try and use it. Just like our next gadget sitting in at number 5, the Explosive Mine. A mounted mine that creates a 120 damage explosion in a 4.5 meter radius. Along with a cooldown rate of 15 seconds, its main purpose and strengths is that it can defend cash outs fairly well and drop a light's health down to just below 30 points. However, that's the only positive I can give this thing, because this gadget has become a real shell of its former health-shattering self. Its old 2 ammo count has been reduced to 1, along with a big cut in its damage, meaning that if you're defending a cash out, you better hope that a single mine is enough to defend that area. And trust me, it's not. On top of that, it lacks sufficient defense capability compared to the other mine choices in the game, in both terms of defense and overall damage. So for those reasons alone, I have to say that as of Season 7, the Explosive Mine is the one offensive gadget that falls short on our list. But moving on to number 4, we have the Breach Charge. A 3 ammo utility gadget that makes a wall, floor, or ceiling disappear after a 1.5 second priming delay. And compared to the Thermal Bore, the Breach Charge can be used more frequently and be detonated at a later point, even while not being in the line of sight of the breaching point, making it easier to defend, breach, or distract opponents during a fight. But it doesn't make much of an impact like the Thermal Bore, which can do the same job, at the same time, from a distance, all while avoiding the typical priming delay, causing it to become a lower tier option for most light builds, and becoming the one gadget that I don't see myself using anytime soon. And the same can be said for our next gadget standing in at number 3, C4. Similar to the Breach Charge, it's a deployable explosive that deals high damage and breaches structures. As well, it can be used offensively, damaging opponents by blowing up arena throwables for better damage. Just don't try and throw them because you'll just embarrass yourself.
Placing an explosive!
But where the weaknesses really begin to show is that the C4 only has 1 ammo, and a priming time of 1.9 seconds that cannot be interrupted before use. I mean, its main use is breaching and it can't even do that well enough. I mean, just why not use the RPG or the Charge and Slam? It's way more effective and has plenty of uses than this one-trick pony. I'm sorry to say, but C4 was really useful in previous seasons, but just not anymore. Just like our pick at number 2, the Nullifier. It's a close-range weapon that can zap a contestant to nullify any and all interactions, disabling specials, gadgets, and weapons, all while making them unable to take or deal damage for close to 4 seconds. But where the community sees problems with the Nullifier is that it has no real use compared to its overutilized past. And it's sad to say, but I share the same sentiments. I mean, where it once held a stronghold for most light builds, it now holds as a weaker deterrent, with it acting more like a regrouping tool for your enemy, rather than a proper stop 'em and fight 'em gadget. However, it still can have some of the overall same objective use of cash out delay and defense, so I can't say it's earned the title of the worst. But there is one gadget that I hold that title for. It has got to be the worst, most useless, and most weak utility that the finals has to offer in the history of Embark's creation. And that gadget is Thermal Vision. A 20-second utility that provides an outline of opponents that can bypass smoke and dust to make aiming easier. However, I don't see much use in this ability. I mean, you practically either need to run smokes to have a good strategy, and we all know how I feel about smokes, or you have to run a mid to long range weapon to balance out a better build for it. But this too can be difficult to run because, surprisingly enough, one of its weaknesses is that it has a limited range. So the fact that you need to play a 4D chess gambit to even make this gadget work in a match goes to show its overall capability. So as we stand in Season 7 with a new close quarters map, new gadgets, and new quote-unquote metas, can we really say that Thermal Vision is objectively an effective gadget? Honestly? Yeah. Because despite my overall rankings, the finals is a game where different gadgets offer so many different advantages and are useful in their own different ways. So don't let a list discourage any of your choices moving forward. Each build, weapon, special, and gadgets all have their own pros and cons. But each one can also work really well when they have the right circumstances and teammates to back them up. So for this video, I want to end on one thing. Play more finals and find your worst. Also, light sucks, I hate them. Okay, bye!